Good evening, students. Now, first let me thank you for watching and subscribing the channel The Science Geek. I myself, Ratna Vishwas, would like to present another small interesting lesson which you will be studying in 10th, those who are not in 10th and those who are in 10th. And that lesson is nothing but a very important lesson for your board exam, heredity and variation. You must be watching hundreds of videos, you must be going to your private tuitions, you must be making your notes. So how many things to watch and what to retain in your brain, right? So I just want to brief you up with the main points of this lesson. I will divide this lesson, heredity and variation, in two parts, part 1 and part 2. Today I will just tell you the theoretical part of it. See, heredity, what is heredity? What is actually heredity? You have learned this from your junior classes. Like a mango plant comes from a mango seed. This mango plant cannot come from any other seed. So, a like begets like. This is an English phrase. So, you can say the transmission of characters or traits from the parents to the offspring is known as heredity. Transmission of characters, I said. Characters or traits. The word traits and characters are similar, they are synonym. So don't be confused if they ask you what is a trait. Trait is nothing but a character. So this character is transmitted from the parent, and that parent is either from the paternal side and the maternal side. The gametes fuse. Now you must be thinking, what is this word gametes? You must have read sexual and asexual reproduction in 7th and 8th standard, where we say the variations don't take place, that variations are not inherited. Like we say, many variations are not inherited. But when we talk about sexual reproduction, their fusion of gametes takes place. And in these gametes, the genes are transferred from one generation to the next generation. This word genes, it is familiar to you, nothing but a functional segment of DNA and the unit of inheritance which goes from the parent to the offspring through a hybrid formation, So this hybrid formation was studied by Mendel, who is known as the father of genetics, in two ways, when he took one character at a time and when he took two characters at a time. That part I will deal later on. When he took one character at a time, it was termed as monohybrid. When he took two characters at a time, it was termed as dihybrid. How to do that I will show you later on. But before we go for that, you should know some terms related with this lesson, heredity and variation. Some basic terms you should know, like what is heredity, then what is variation, then what are the differences between heredity and variation, what heredity cannot cause evolution, but variation can cause evolution. Why? Because variation is nothing but the changes, the visible changes of characters or traits among individuals of a species is known as variation. This is known as variation. The changes in the characters or traits in the individuals of a species of one kind, right, of one kind, is known as variation. More the variation, more the chances of the species to survive. In your book, one example must be there where you have read that heat-resistant bacteria. So if more such heat-resistant bacteria are coming in the next few generations, so it means that bacteria is prone to heat. It can survive. So chances of survival increases. So more the variations are there, means more the variant are produced. variant. More the variants are produced for a particular species, say that bacteria, that bacteria has survived, and it is known as survival of the fittest. This is also known as Charles Darwin's theory, that if an organism can survive in adverse condition also, and survive, and then say that yes, I have survived with all the adaptations in my body and all, so, and I am fit to survive. So obviously, all the species of that organism will also survive. So we say, unlike this, variation leads to evolution. So heredity doesn't lead to evolution, variation leads to evolution. Always remember, right? And this variation can again be of two types, somatic and asomatic. If it is somatic, it means it is in the normal cells. And then if it is gametic means it is in the germ cells. And variation in the germ cells is more important than the variation in the somatic cells. Because in the germ cells means the DNA, the DNA of both the parents, of the maternal side and the paternal side, they will contribute for the changes in the next generation. And then that changes will be inherited, will be taken by the offspring. This offspring is also known by one word, progeny. Progeny, we call it progeny, right? And this progeny will transmit it to the next generation. So like this, Mendel had taken the pea plant, right? Mendel selected pea plant. Now pea plant in science is known by the word Pisum sativum, right? The scientific name. In 9th standard you must have read one lesson, Diversity in Living Organism, where every organism is named by a generic name and a specific name. So when you will learn this name of Pisum sativum, P will be written with capital letter, S with small letter. Pisum sativum is the scientific name of pea plant. Now why Mendel selected pea plant? This is a very frequently asked question in board exam. Why he selected? He selected pea plant for many reasons. Some basic reasons: that it is a bisexual flower, it has a short life cycle, it has visible traits or characters, it had contrasting characters. You know which kind of characters? Through which he could derive the laws of genetics, and that's why he was known as the father of genetics. Say he took the characters like height of the plant. Height is a character, remember. This height existed in two forms, tall and short. So tall and short are the two alternative forms of height. So here you have to learn one terminology, alleles. The alternative form of a trait is known by the word alleles. A-double-L-E-L-E. So the first word today in your vocabulary of the lesson, heredity and variation, is alleles. Before that I told heredity, variation, types of variation. Now I come to the word alleles. This allele is very important, and this allele, Mendel was writing in terms of factor, that there is a thing in the pea plant which is responsible for bringing variation. He could not discover the word genes, but he told it as a word factor. And this factor existed in alternative forms like height, tall and short. Now alleles, remember alleles, it is the alternative form of the same trait or of the same gene. And when you have to write this monohybrid and dihybrid cross, always remember, write it in pairs, because the gene exists in pairs. Capital TT bracket, it shows two, capital T shows this is the gene for tallness. Capital T shows tallness. If the same thing I write in small letters, small tt bracket, it shows this is the character for dwarfness. But you will not write single t, mind, you will write in pairs. This is the first rule of genetics, how to derive the monohybrid, which I will tell in the next video. So alleles, right? Then one more word you should know, phenotypes. Phenotype, P-H-E-N-O, phenotype, T-Y-P-E type. What is phenotype? Phenotype is the external morphological feature. Say how you look externally. Nobody is seeing your internal constitution. How you are looking, that is known as the phenotypic constitution of that organism. So the phenotype of the pea plant can be tall pea plant or short pea plant. Understood? Now here I am not talking about the genetic constitution. So the second keyword here which you are learning now is phenotype, the external morphological characters of a organism. Here we are taking pea plant. Third important keyword is genotype. Now what is genotype? Genotype, now see, break the word. It is having a core word here, genes, G-E-N-E, genes. So genes means nothing but the genetic constitution of the pea plant. Now just now I told you this genetic constitution can be in two ways. Either if I take the example of TT, capital TT, that is tallness. So the genotype can be tall, which represented by capital TT, or the genotype can be dwarf, showing as small tt. This is the first stage. So genotype is nothing but the genetic constitution of an organism. Okay. Then the fourth vocabulary which you all should know here is very important, that what is hybrid? Hybrid. Again you have read this word hybrid in 9th standard, improvement in food resources, where genetically modified plants, GMO we call them, or hybrid. Hybrid is nothing where a new organism, a new product is formed from two single parent. Like if I say A into B are the two original parents, they will produce AB. A into B will give rise to AB. Now this AB which is coming is a hybrid with some characters of A and some characters of B. So AB is a hybrid. So this hybrid was studied by Mendel by taking one character at a time. That time he named it as a monohybrid cross because mono means one. So he took tallness and then he said, let me take one pea plant as a male plant as tall plant and the female plant as a dwarf plant. And then he tried to, these were the parents, then he crossed them, which I will show you in my next lecture, how to derive the cross. And then he got a hybrid in the first generation. In the first generation, the hybrid which he got was capital T and small t. If you see your book, this is a hybrid which he got. So this was a monohybrid cross. This hybrid was told to be tall. Why? Because the capital T was dominant, another term I am introducing in your vocabulary, over the small t. And it is getting expressed in the first generation. So this capital T is known here as the dominant trait and the small t is known as the recessive trait. So till now you count on your tips how many words I told you. Heredity, evolution, alleles 3, phenotype 4, genotype 5, hybrid 6th, dominant 7th, recessive 8th. 8 terms I told you. If you know these terms, nobody can confuse you in this lesson, right? Till recessive I have told you. Now, this is the background of some of the terminologies for you to proceed further. After this, we come to why did Mendel say that I can derive the laws from this pea plant? Because he got very significant results, right? He got a mathematical result which was proven by him only. Until now it has been established, and from there it gave rise to the 3 laws: the laws of dominance, the law of segregation, and the law of independent assortment. Okay, these are the 3 laws which I will show you in my next slide, where I will explain formation of monohybrid on one side and formation of dihybrid on one side. This is the introductory part of the lesson. Now, another very important thing which is asked for your board exam is, what role does DNA play here? What role does DNA play here? So you all should know that this DNA is a macromolecule in our body. Macro means something big. Though it's a very complicated structure, and the structure of DNA was discovered by MacLeod and McCarthy in the year 1953. They got Nobel Prize for discovering this structure. It is known by a double helical structure, very complicated structure. Deoxyribonucleic acid is the full form of DNA. Many of you must have studied about it in your 9th standard. There are 2 types of nucleic acid, and where are they found? Obviously in the brain of the cell. Which is the brain of the cell? Nucleus. Then what is the nucleus made up of? Chromosomes. What are the chromosomes made up of? Genes. And what are the genes made up of? DNA. So make a flowchart. Nucleus, chromosomes, genes, DNA. Full flowchart. Just remember, this comes as a hot marks question. Then where is the DNA found? Where it is found? It is found in the genes. And this DNA, it is responsible for the protein synthesis in all the living organisms, not only in pea plant. And this protein gives you an identity. If the proteins are not synthesized, it means your body is not working, because these proteins are nothing but long chains of amino acids. And these proteins are made by DNA. And this protein is made by DNA, and this DNA is playing a very significant role in both the process, monohybrid and dihybrid. Like this, that species, that Pisum sativum, that species grew generation after generation because fusion of DNA was there, both from the maternal side and the paternal side. So this whole lesson, will be complicated for those who will not know how to study the lesson. So the first part for you is to learn the basic terminologies which I told you today, those 8 to 9 terminologies. In my next video, I will tell you about the derivation of monohybrid cross, dihybrid cross. With that, I will show you sex determination also. And in the last part of the video, I will just tell you something about speciation, What is speciation? What factors govern speciation? Here also many terminologies are there. Genetic drift, natural selection, geographical isolation. These are the things which determine the evolution of a species. In your book, it is about beetle, but this year CBSE has deleted that portion for you, but you should know it. Some basic knowledge should be there in your mind. So I will just tell you about those terms, and then comes the evidences of evolution, that how did the life evolve, heredity and evolution as the name of the lesson goes. So that part of evolution you will study a little bit about fossils. What are fossils? How fossils give evidence for evolution. Then the homologous and analogous organs, very important, but again that has been deleted. Bad luck due to this lockdown and this pandemic situation. Your portion has been deducted, but don't study in this micro way. Study in a macro way, because after 10th you have your 11th to go. So students, that will be the last part of the lesson. That can we say evolution can be equated with progress? Do we Homo sapiens as human beings, are we the most evolved ones, or something more will be there one day? That was the last part of the lesson. So this whole lesson is divided into 3 parts. First part is Mendel and laws of Mendel and those crosses. The middle part is speciation, the factors which govern speciation. The last part is about evidences for evolution, and can evolution be equated with progress. So I think those who are giving this year's board exam can just see this video, and if you like it, subscribe for it, and I will be giving another video tomorrow. That today is 6th September. Tomorrow I will tell you about the monohybrid and dihybrid cross. Right? Thank you, students. Good evening, students. Now, first let me thank you for watching and subscribing the channel The Science Geek. I myself, Ratna Vishwas, would like to present another small interesting lesson which you will be studying in 10th, those who are not in 10th and those who are in 10th. And that lesson is nothing but a very important lesson for your board exam, heredity and variation. You must be watching hundreds of videos, you must be going to your private tuitions, you must be making your notes. So how many things to watch and what to retain in your brain, right? So I just want to brief you up with the main points of this lesson. I will divide this lesson, heredity and variation, in 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. Today I will just tell you the theoretical part of it. See, heredity, what is heredity? What is actually heredity? You have learned this from your junior classes. Like a mango plant comes from a mango seed. This mango plant cannot come from any other seed. So, a like begets like. This is an English phrase. So, you can say the transmission of characters or traits from the parents to the offspring is known as heredity. Transmission of characters, I said. Characters or traits. The word traits and characters are similar. They are synonym. So don't be confused if they ask you what is a trait. Trait is nothing but a character. So this character is transmitted from the parent, and that parent is either from the paternal side and the maternal side. The gametes fuse. Now you must be thinking, what is this word gametes? You must have read sexual and asexual reproduction in 7th and 8th standard, where you must have seen that in sexual reproduction